Hello, everyone, and welcome back to day 3 of BPM Live 2020 online event. And if you don't already know, I'm your host, Jen Pham at PEX Network. For anyone who's attending this for the first time this week, you should have already received the links to all of your sessions, but in case you haven't, then check your spam folder or download the agenda that I've included in the resources box for your own personal copy. As a reminder, all sessions are fully interactive, so I do encourage you to chat with our speakers and ask questions in the Q&A box. Also, don't miss out on the content that you'll find in the resources box for every session, especially the PEX Network's BPM reports. Okay, just to recap, we had quite a few case studies presented over the last 2 days, including AkzoNobel, KeyBank, QuickBooks, Shell, and many more. Kicking off today, we have Henry here at Comidor, and he's going to be presenting a case study on how McKesson has automated processes in lightning-fast development cycles. So, Henry, straight to you for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Jennifer, and your team, of course, for this opportunity and your outstanding support so far to make this event happen today. My name is Henry Piagli, Solution Architect at Comidor, provider of the Comidor Digital Automation Platform. A bit of little things of myself and Kunal, which together we're going to go through our today presentation. My background experience is more than 13 years in finance and IT, and alongside we've been really looking forward to having a discussion with you today. We understand that companies like Johnson & Johnson, Dell, Saudi Aramco, Deutsche Bank, FedEx, and Sky are some of the organizations you, our audience today, are representing in our webinar as professionals at a very high-level decision level. So the bar of expectation for this webinar is exactly where we wanted, very high. Now, thank you again for being with us here today. Allow me now, talking about great organization and exceptional professionals, let me allow you to introduce you our co-host of this event today, Kunal Badami, the Change Information Marketing McKesson UK, an exceptional professional that we had a chance to meet last March in the Coventry headquarters, and they were a great host, of course. Kunal's experience of more than 10 years in corporate level project management on digital transformation, process improvement, data management, the whole depth of understanding of information systems, makes him a position to be our ideal counterpart in our conversation and our working between Comidor and McKesson. Due to last-minute personal reason, Kunal has shared with us a pre-recorded session of his own presentation, even though he wanted to looking forward to being here with us, and he was kind enough to provide to us. Our agenda today, very quickly, is going to go over the presentation of how exactly McKesson is succeeding digital transformation, even 2020, hard year for everyone. Then we'll go on expand on where Comidor also has its own success stories where in sectors and companies, and then we'll go to the Q&A session. So the first will be a 30 minutes, the Q&A session will be the rest of the 50 minutes. With that, I'd like to give the stage to Kunal, presentation that he has shared with us, and we'll come back to you after the presentation of McKesson case study.
Hi, I'm Kunal Badami, Change and Innovation Manager at McKesson UK. I head up the Comidor automation program at McKesson and working alongside Comidor and Rock applications to drive forward business process automation at McKesson.
Let me start with, it's one of the oldest and largest healthcare companies in the world. McKesson covers 16 countries, including US, UK, France, and Germany. At McKesson, we pride ourselves on providing health and well-being solutions that make a difference to customers. So at McKesson, some of the business challenges that we were facing were multiple applications with complex manual process leading to time delays and critical costly data errors, limited critical data visibility, low efficiency due to incorrect work requests and time-consuming tasks, governance compliance issues based on the manual nature of work requests coming into the teams on email, phone calls, and no data validation or workflow routines in place. So why did we choose Comidor? Well, Comidor was selected in 2018 by McKesson for its ability to deliver on McKesson team business requirements lightning fast, as we needed an agile solution to digitalize our processes within our support center. We couldn't wait for several months for solutions to be delivered, which was what a lot of the other tools were offering. In addition to that, its breadth of functionality and the advanced automation technologies And when reviewing the market, this was the only application that gave us so much functionality and solutions within one single application. And by this, I mean there was a workflow solution, low-code offering, CRM, PMP, HR, BPM, and AI capabilities. And it almost seemed to have everything that we could possibly need. The Comidor team's ability in cooperation with their local partner Rock Applications to execute extremely complicated processes. And I also recall the first meeting that we had in 2018 with Comidor and Rock Applications, and immediately they were able to understand the complex problems that McKesson were facing and were able to give us solutions which instantly gave us the trust we needed in selecting Comidor as a partner for McKesson. Okay, some significant results in numbers. Some really impressive numbers, starting with the Comidor app builder, which has allowed 67% of processes to be built in less than 9 days. This was a really important enhancement that Comidor made for us in 2019, and it's allowed my team at McKesson to also internally build processes using the app builder. And this is with business resources as opposed to technical IT resources that you would usually associate with tools of this nature. Another area was approval process to a full electronic workflow request, and Comidor were able to fully customize this based on all of McKesson's requirements, and a huge saving on the process from 12 minutes down to 2 minutes. This immediately ensured our employees were really engaged with using this tool. Payroll reporting, it went from one data process in the past due to several Excel documents needing to be collated, and it basically was put together through an automated solution, and it's now available to download in the space of 5 minutes. And this has really allowed us to gather real-time reporting, whilst also being a good example of a tool that's now self-service. Some of the other achievements that we've had is reduction in use of Excel and Word, minimizing costly errors, improvement in governance and SOX issues being addressed, maximized consistency, efficiency, and productivity, full process visibility, employee self-service, and really empowering our workforce with this tool. Just to articulate on the solution itself. So as part of the work with Comidor, we wanted to focus on the following project objectives, and this consisted of automate processes, improve governance, get insight of critical data to further improve our processes, maximize efficiency within our workforce. So far what we've achieved is 22 automated processes across 6 different departments in less than 2 years. And for almost 1 year, we piloted the solution across just 3 processes. One of the areas that we really focused on was central data, and we automated a complex process which previously involved requests for data changes coming in on an Excel template, which was then emailed across into a shared mailbox. By moving this into Comidor, we immediately improved our data validation rules. As rules were built into the workflows, we saw a huge improvement in the quality of data requests, and less time was being spent dealing with queries. And most importantly, we now had full traceability as an organization on the actual work requests that were taking place. Again, this was one of our key areas that we need to address through this project. Another area was procurement and supply chain. And in this case, we were able to automate our Far East orders. Previously, this was a paper-based process which was essentially signed and scanned in and then emailed across. So in essence, it seems like something quite simple, but it was taking so much time in terms of getting the approvals processed due to the manual nature of the processing. We fully automated the process, and it immediately gave us more efficiency by being able to place orders in a more timely manner, which definitely supported our inventory team at McKesson. Finance was another area that we're using Comidor in the most, and in particular around approving payments, invoices. Again, this was a paper-based process, which is now in a workflow solution, and it's fully compliant with all of our SOX requirements, which is huge for us at McKesson. The legal department, Again, they're using Comidor in collaboration with other finance teams to ensure all of our suppliers that we are dealing with have been fully vetted, and this is following a workflow approval cycle. Shared service centers. This was a new business function at McKesson, and we've basically been able to move all the team's processes into Comidor for our shared services, who are essentially accountable for processing all of our transactional data at McKesson. And this has been achieved in less than 12 months. Okay, on to the next slide. So just want to talk through some real sort of examples of a process that we've had a real success story for. So order authorization form. I briefly mentioned this on the previous slide, that this was one of the first complex processes that we put into Comidor at the start of 2019. We were looking to move away from paper-based approval, and we needed a slick and efficient solution whilst maintaining the change impact journey for our senior management team, who were the key stakeholders in this process. So Comidor and Rock Applications developed an email automation solution which immediately removed the need for our senior management team having to log into the Comidor application, and it made a seamless transition when we went live with this process in Comidor, whilst also minimizing the changes for our users. It involved supporting 6 different departments and instantly improved our SLAs and orders, whilst also allowing us to place orders at a much quicker rate. The requester was getting notifications of when approvals were being made. So overall, it gave us the information that we needed without even having to log into the system, and it also allows our workforce to focus on more of the value-add activities with this new automation tool. This process is a really good example of automating a very manual process, and then the work that we've done with Comidor and Rock Applications to then take this further, and they've supported us with moving this entire process onto a mobile application at the start of the pandemic in March. The real highlight is the fact that we had a brand new mobile app which was built, tested, and implemented with the support of Comidor in a 4-week turnaround, which was absolutely amazing. And it certainly helped us with the remote working that's taken away any potential infrastructure issues that a company may face with working from home. So again, a real success story whilst highlighting the continuous improvement cycle with this tool. Another really big area is payment runs. And this is a finance-related process. And this was a really important process that we put into Comidor in August 2019 as part of some transition work that was taking place at McKesson. And we needed this in order to process all the payments at McKesson, but also ensuring we were fully SOX compliant. And the first time we actually discussed this with Comidor and Rock Applications was towards the end of July 2019, and within the space of a few weeks, they were able to build, test, and support us with implementing this key process in Comidor. And also we had Rock Application that were fully available on standby for up to a week to support us during the hypercare period, as this was essentially the first process that involved different departments in different geographical locations within Lithuania and the UK. And we had an increased user community with this process moving into Comidor. The results for this process was an end-to-end process automation solution with a smart level approval documented workflow. We had some specific customized requirements whereby we needed to capture when a document had been opened. This was fully developed and reusable for us across the platform. So some really good development here where we've been able to reuse this functionality across other workflows at McKesson. We've got full data visibility and improved control over payment requests. And across 12 months, we've processed over 3,000 payments using this process in Comidor. So it's now really an integral part of our finance operations at McKesson. We've had full compliance and SOX issues that have been addressed, and we've now started working on building some automated reports for the teams to use to further improve this process. Again, this was part of the work that Comidor had done for us in moving this across onto the mobile application. So again, we've improved the process, firstly, last year by moving it into Comidor, and we're now seeing even greater savings with the mobile application, which now means the process is just taking a matter of seconds for each participant to go into the mobile app and actually complete this. So really optimizing the efficiency savings within this process. We're also getting real-time payment run audit reporting, which is now self-service, and reports can either be run in the application or emailed out to users. So it's giving us real insight into our data, which we previously didn't have access to available in an instance. That's a really big success story. Another really important process for us at McKesson is invoice approvals. And this is essentially a process where we've actually been able to build 6 internal workflows ourselves at McKesson with 2 days of training from Comidor's UK partner Rock Applications. So this was something that we first discussed in December 2019 as we had a request from one of our business teams and asking if we could automate some invoice approvals which were previously going on an email approval. And it was a real challenge with things in terms of approvals not happening on time, constant chasing up for the business, and general lack of productivity with the process. So we discussed options with Comidor around the challenges and potential solutions available. And Comidor were able to really support us with giving us some good ideas around solutions in Comidor for this. We then captured business requirements, had walkthroughs with all of our SMEs, carried out an internal build, which took us 2 days with Comidor App Builder, which had been developed. And this was a really simple tool to use. So in terms of my personal experience, it was as simple as drag and drop, and I was really comfortable using this with the training that Rock Applications had given to us. We then had end-to-end workflow demos with SMEs and completing all testing. We then had playback with the department manager, and the process was live within 14 days of the initial request that took place. We've since been able to use the same approach across another 5 internal workflows, and this has really allowed us to automate the workflow using the low-code BPM and RPA functionality. This has also been the benchmark in terms of internal workflows that we've built at McKesson with Comidor support. We've had multiple automation functionalities available with the platform, full visibility of all workflow stages, and we're now able to identify potential bottlenecks in terms of where the process is being slowed down internally. We can proactively look for process improvements. We've got an RPA component used for document creation through PDF, full traceability of each approval request, which supports auditing and query management at McKesson, instant accessibility and transparency in the. The last really important point on this is Comidor have developed the app builder so that we're now able to make processes available on the mobile app ourselves at McKesson. So really allowing us to take control of the simpler processes being developed internally, whilst Comidor and Rock Applications focus on the more technical requirements for McKesson. Okay, the final slide is, I just want to talk through some results from our user perspective. And this was a really high employee satisfaction according to the 2019 McKesson employee survey. So I'm just going to highlight some of the feedback that we've had. So Comidor has fully digitalized all the tasks that the team perform and has allowed us to improve our SLAs. Comidor has saved me 2 days each month by automatically generating all my KPI reports. Comidor has improved the quality of data that my team receives and processes, saving valuable time. My orders are now approved at a much quicker rate in Comidor. Comidor has reduced the amount of time I spend each month chasing approvals of my orders. My team no longer spends considerable time dealing with incorrect work requests. So overall, really positive feedback at McKesson with using the Comidor application, and the team is constantly bringing out new solutions with the technology that's available in Comidor. And we're just in the process of completing some really exciting AI development at McKesson with Comidor and Rock applications expertise, which I'm sure that McKesson's going to be really excited about, and it's definitely going to generate some even more positive feedback. And I'm just going to hand over back to Henry now.
So thank you. I'd like to thank Kunal. I know he's going to watch this webinar when he finds time. So thank you very much, Kunal, again, and his team for sharing our experience with them on our mutual work at McKesson. And we look forward to learn from them where else they could, since they are being autonomous in using Comidor, where else they can be using it. In the next 10 minutes together, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go together where else Comidor is being used. And then the case we'll present, I'm sure you'll find very interesting, and possibly you can relate to some of those. Now, who uses Comidor, right? Where is Comidor being utilized? Well, it's being utilized in both large organizations, middle, but also very large organizations worldwide, are the ones actually using the Comidor as we speak. Those sectors and using the functionality that, as Kunal mentioned, cover a range of business needs and technology, you may say, specific requests. So we're talking about unique and challenging case in sectors of telco, pharma, energy, chemicals, going from logistics and electronics, industrial automation, consulting, professional services, even public sector. So across the board, if you think about sector-wise. Now, why would all these sectors, which one would say have very unique and different needs, would require such a sophisticated, as Kunal mentioned, powerful, integrated, and high-end solution? Well, because it got everything they need. It offers significant cost savings with fast app development. It got flexible and agile business system architecture. That, with a rich and unique out-of-the-box functionality, which, as you heard earlier on, beyond process automation, we provide out-of-the-box functionality based on project management, HR, CRM, DMS, that accelerate your legacy modernization effort. All those modules are in one user interface, so they leverage each other functionality to increase your productivity. It got enterprise-grade security from the ground up, with unlimited customization and a team of people, of course, that provide quality after-sales support during the way of with our client corporation. Now, since we talk about sectors, let's be more specific. Who is using Comidor now? Who is trusting Comidor to be the solution of choice for their critical business process? So over here you may see some names that are one of the leading companies in their sector, some other small companies in their unique sector. So you see here that, again, the case is that regardless of uniqueness of your business need or the generic of your business need, again, working with such a across the board with sector-wise, it has allowed our team and our solution to be adaptable in every case, in every business scenario. So far we've described industries, companies. Let's go to business functions, right? So the idea is that let's be more specific. So who is using Comidor, let's say, at McKesson, for example, or like ATS Global or other companies? Is it just a small team? Is it just a department? And that's it? Well, over here, what you see is Comidor being used across an organization. And what I mean by that is that Comidor has been adopted enthusiastically from our clients to be used on covering end-to-end process needs. Now, what that translates to is that you have your value chain, your service value chain in your company, from the customer request or opportunity demand to actually delivering your service, your product, etc. Well, all that process is end-to-end, but nevertheless it goes from different departments in your company, from accounting and sales, to finance, to inventory, to production, to finance. So as you see in our examples here, you may see examples of different processes that some could be familiar with you if you are in the same sectors with the one that we have already described, and others are the ones describing that the solution is functioning as an orchestration role of all those sub-processes that allow you to provide an end-to-end service to your opportunity and demand to your clients. And even though so far we have described sectors, so you have a broad understanding where Comidor is being used, by whom, and how specifically, all those, to our understanding, comes down to addressing specific business needs. Now, what do we do? What challenges we solve? So beyond the specific examples we saw, what are the end result of our adopting our solution? Of course, our expertise and know-how in the sector, or working actually with our clients, right? So over here, what you're seeing is a depiction of a usual multi-department and multi-system IT infrastructure, system enterprise architecture. And over here, what you get is that without Comidor in our case, in our picture here, what you have is you have unorganized communications, or in more traditional way that is not linear in its way. You have unstandardized process. You have unofficial process that, again, sometimes due to the expertise possibly to some of your frontline employees, that could be good for the company, right? But it's not that well when it costs the company, let's say, due to errors, some significant cost or even fines. The way that the structure in a company in relation to departments and the system that support department has come down to actually the system's functionality and logic, depicting to the company how exactly they should operate. And I remember a conversation with a director last year in Amsterdam at OPEX event, where it said there are large corporation manufacturing. They are using more than 1,600 systems in their company. So in other words, different departments are using different systems, possibly for the same end result. So with these pain points or these challenges that we are strategists to address, what we understand is that you can have process excellence actually in place, because due to larger technical depth and lack of business visibility and all the other elements of that actually limits your own, regardless of your efforts and intentions. Again, this, let me just take you back to the specific slide. That all this does not allow process excellence to take place. So let's see what happens, again, from our feedback working with our clients, when Comidor comes in place. So what happens is that Comidor is the orchestration tool that enters in an area between your IT ecosystem, regardless of what kinds of those are, and of course your people, your teams, by introducing, of course, a specific way of doing business based on your own process and business rules, by introducing high-end automation based on RPA that would support your own employee to emphasize and monitor and focus on more added value areas of their work. But also, since you have visibility on how your processes work, then you have control over your business actually in order to be more agile, adaptable to any change that you need, but also minimize internal costs and errors that nowadays are very valuable to avoid. And all these, of course, come down to being able to achieve process excellence, of course, with your client's help, by having full scalability, visibility of client, and of course, adaptability to every change. And 2020 has been a year of a lot of changes, of course. So that would be, at this point, let's say, our presentation that we have presented for you today. Hopefully, you thought it was interesting. In the webinar itself, our team has gathered and prepared a range of solutions of additional information beyond what you just saw regard to case studies in both in pharma and logistics, but also our support material on technology in our sector, but also on the methodology and framework for process excellence. At this point, I'll pass over the stage to Jen and the rest of the audience and enter our Q&A session, and I will look forward to receiving your questions. Please, go ahead.
Thanks, Henry, for the presentation and for sharing Kunal's case study there. So we do have a few questions coming in at the moment. If you haven't already asked a question, then feel free to include them in there now. I'm just going to start with a question from Mike at nChoice. He says, I'm curious in your processes, do you have a re-reference overall business objective to ensure process aligned versus smaller departmental objectives?
Right, very good question. Thank you, Mike. Our business needs, the way that so far our experience has been in the market working with clients, addressing those specific needs, has allowed us to be very flexible and open in regard to what exactly framework or specific approach, specific case required. In other words, to our understanding and to the way we do business, we adapt to specifically business case of our client, regardless of their sector or department-wise. And the solution, and of course the multidisciplinary team that we have in place, is create design to be able to adapt accordingly to whether a specific process is mostly process-oriented, so it's mostly process optimization the requirement, or it's mostly the need for automation, so inclusion of our high-end business functionality, high technology. So it depends on the case that we receive. We understand and we stand to not having any limitation of the case itself, and we will work with our clients regardless of the nature of their process.
Okay. And so Mike actually mentioned earlier another question. For all of the gains stated, did you have specific measurements to prove it, or did you have a true starting measurement?
Right. So the way we approach our own, let's say, result measuring and all the metrics that we have in place, so they come from two areas. Us being a software company and being a service provider, actually, and with very strict criteria both on performance, security, and of course on availability of services. We have our internal, let's say, metrics and our based on the service availability, based on the product readiness and the product delivering the value that we intend to do. And the other comes from the feedback and working with our clients, so which is the most important to us, because that's the business result that we aim to receive and understand whether we are in the right direction. So in regard to the metrics from the end product, the end result that we are having, Mike, with our clients, we are in close relationship with other teams, the contact teams that we are working with our clients, and by receiving the results we saw earlier on with McKesson, by receiving the metrics and the feedback on the results that we are having, then we sit down with their teams and understand where there are points of optimization and where we could help them either by our own know-how, best practice, and of course changes to the solution itself to optimize areas that could optimize it. So we depend a lot on our client feedback, and we'll be more than happy to share you specific statistics that you would require beyond the case you saw earlier on, and in other cases that we have worked. Please come into contact with us after this webinar and address any questions you'd like, and our team would be happy to address it in detail.
Okay, thank you. We've got another question here from Arvin at Coca-Cola Bottlers. What particular activity in payment run processes were being automated?
Right, as Kunal mentioned earlier on the case of McKesson, the payment itself, so specific to this organization, was done in siloed process steps. So they had a lot of processes on a specific department and different geographical region. So each of those were using their own dedicated solution, so either system or a specific process, and the end result of their own specific unique department. So let's say a department that started the invoice raising or the payment request in the UK, another one was processing it, let's say in Lithuania or in Germany that Kunal mentioned. So all those were not connected between them. All those departments were not sharing the visibility on the payment run stage or state. Sometimes they had multiple, let's say, payment not being approved at the rate of the request. So what we did there is, it's quite simple if you think about it. All the stakeholders of this process were interacting with each other for the common end goal, still the same environment. So one process that covered end-to-end all those different departments, all different organizations, different areas geographically. And what they did, all the business logic that they had in the corporate, from the corporate side of it, would depict how exactly the payment run would proceed, either by issuing the first invoice input, the client input, or their internal specific financial information, to the verification received from the financial director or their own accounting or other departments that were taking place, up to the data validation, to their self-service, which what they did was that, as is happening in a lot of companies, validate whether or not the uniqueness of data, of requests and payments, and of course reassuring that payment has been concluded successfully by having the workflow managed end-to-end, even the verification that the payment has been delivered as promised, and in strict, of course, compliance issues that allow McKesson to report to their SOX requirement on demand whenever the legislator required that. So they could easily collect the data, share it on demand without lengthy work on that. Hopefully I was able to answer on that question. Again, I will be more than happy to share more information on that. Please connect with us after this webinar, where we could, or provide your email, and I will share with you detailed information after coming in contact with McKesson team if needed.
Okay, I've got a question here from Suzanne at OMV. How are your workflows connected to your ERP systems?
Right, so if I understood the question correctly, our own solution does so. We do not have our own integrated ERP system inside the Comidor environment, inside the Comidor platform. Our platform integrates with the existing ERP that you have in place in your corporation. The way we integrate with those ERP, either you can name it either SAP, it's Microsoft, it's Oracle, or other systems you may have in place. We integrate with, of course, with application protocol interface, an API technology. Our own side, we have an open architecture. So as long as the user knows, the client knows which API and what data you want to connect between our two interfaces, then we have the API document, and we can easily connect with any interface or data point inside the ERP environment. And if that's not enough, or in some cases we have seen is that the API integration is somehow static, and it takes some time to develop or implement. So if your business needs change and you need to exchange some other information between, let's say, your process automation platform or your ERP, you need another data instance to receive or send, then we have seen that RPA technology is a very good and very effective approach in order to make on-the-go exchange integration approaches between systems without sitting down and having a complex IT project and recreating an API, a custom API. So those should be two areas, two approaches that we integrate with an ERP. And in case, in case that the system that wants to integrate with Comidor does not have access, it's not a cloud-based, so it has an API interface. We also provide the local agent, which actually installs on the client premises and serves as a middleman between their own, let's say, siloed application with the cloud-based Comidor environment. Hopefully I was able to answer your question. Again, please contact us after this event to continue a conversation if you think there are additional information needed. Thank you.
Thanks, Henry. So there's a few more questions in here, but I just want to wrap up this session as we're coming to a close. Henry, do you have any final words you want to say to the audience?
Yes. What I was saying is that since, and Jen, this is something we discussed together, this is our first, let's say, effort on a webinar from the PEX network, and Comidor is strategically looking at markets that also corporations and professionals that trust and work through the PEX network to be familiarized, be educated, and be market awareness about the solution that they could provide, let's say, specific results to them. What I would say is that we have, beyond the webinar right now you're seeing, we are going to have a lengthy relationship with PEX, so you're going to see us again and again, and hopefully you will understand better where we stand in your own process needs and business needs. And the best thing that I could recommend is we could sit down and have a talk and understand whether what we do and what we've seen so far could match your own existing or future projects. So please, all the contact information you have, just send us an email and we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone who's interested, there's a lot of resources for you to download there. There is a McKesson case study if you want to download, also some other case studies and ebooks that you can download from the Comidor team. Upon closing this webinar, you will be prompted with a survey as well, so please do respond to that so that we can follow up with you accordingly. Thank you so much for joining us, Henry, and thank you everyone for joining us again today for this webinar. Next up, we have another case study. It's Saskatchewan Blue Cross on how they achieved full business process digitalization in 6 months. And that's a presentation sponsored by Creatio. I'll see you again in 15 minutes. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.